evening, and I cannot remember your name because I did not write it down.
Mr. Butch Walker.
Butch Walker, everyone.
It's R-O-S-E-L-L, pronounced Butch. None of my teachers could pronounce it on the first day of school. I was a little timid kid, and they would slaughter my name. Rosell, you name it. They could not pronounce Rosell. It's R-O-S-E-L-L, pronounced exactly like it's spelled. And I was a little timid kid, and I'd turn red in the face and have to correct them. And I finally got in high school, and I said, you know, I'm named after my granddad. And I had a great granddad, and I'm proud of who I am.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah. As we should be.
Okay, you mentioned the little cemetery on Upsalem Road.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all did a cleaning job out there?
We did a cleaning job, and then we did a nighttime Easter egg hunt for adults only.
Fundraiser.
I have got a distant relative
It's there.
that is there.
We didn't trample on the
On
grass.
on my mother's side. I could not tell you what the name is. If I heard it, it was, I think, a Swedish name.
Okay.
And then y'all talked about the Ponce Inlet Lighthouse. My great-grandfather helped build the Ponce Inlet in the late 1800s. And I have got a hand-painted portrait of him in one of the old bubble glass
Oh, yes.
frames.
Uh-huh.
And he is standing in front of it with his carpenter's apron on. My great-grandfather. His name was Wetherill. Some people might know the name Wetherill. Maybe not. Okay. I got some family here tonight. My wife was sitting over there. We've been married for almost 59 years.
Wow, that is an applause.
And she's had a walker ever since we've been married.
Oh,
Can you imagine somebody having a walker for almost 59 years?
wow.
I guess we.
She's married to one.
Oh.
My last name is Walker.
That's the
You should have warned us that was a joke.
I have a great time with that. In the stores, I'll see somebody walking in and on their walkers, and I'll walk over to them and I say, how long have you had your walker? And they'll say, well, I've had it for 3 years, and I don't know what I would do without it, you know, or I've had it for 3 months or whatever the time, you know. And I said, well, my wife has had one for 58 years, and they'll look up at me, and I've had them say, what is wrong with your wife? I said, she's married to one. And you wouldn't believe the ones that, when I do that, they say, you made my day. It just makes them so happy to hear something funny like that.
Oh, definitely.
But I like to have a good time. I think that guy right there in the blue jacket there can tell you that. I've been to many Gator football games with him. Dean Shoemaker, you heard of Shoemaker Construction Company?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know that his dad helped build the first part of this building here when it was originally built? His dad. He had the lowest bid. And when he won the bid, and he found out why it was the lowest. He forgot to include the price of the roof.
Oh, no.
This explains a lot. Forever dealing with roof problems here.
He didn't make much money on it. He built the first part of this building here, the original building, his dad. And his dad and I were very good friends. They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I used to cut Mr. Shoemaker's hair. And we became close. And I started finding out what he liked. He liked the old Duncan grapefruit. Have you ever heard of the Duncan grapefruit? Yeah. They were the ones that had 100 seeds in it, if not more.
Oh.
They did. When you cut that thing in half, it was full of seeds, but it had the best meat in it of any grapefruit. The new pink ones were kind of soft and all that, and it was crunchy when you chewed on it, and the taste was just, you said you were familiar with them. Did you like them?
Yes.
Well, I had 3 or 4. This is back in the 70s. When I got to know Mr. Shoemaker very well, I cut his hair. He had a standing appointment at our barber shop every other week at 8:30 in the morning, and I had to call him the night before and remind him. But I found out he liked grapefruit, and I did too. And I had 3 or 4 places around town that had big grapefruit trees in their yard, and I would knock on their door because they would just let them drop in the yard and they'd throw them away, you know, the people that didn't eat them. And I told them I like grapefruit, and they said, well, anytime you want them, you can come here and get them. So I would get grapefruit for myself, and I'd get a bag full, and I'd take them to Mr. Shoemaker, and he loved them. So I kept him in the wintertime when grapefruit were coming in. I kept him supplied with good grapefruit. But he kept me supplied with a lot of good things too, so we had a good relationship. And that's his wife Katrina sitting next to him there, and that's my daughter Melanie there, and that's my granddaughter Kaylee sitting right back there, and that was Melanie's husband that just got up and walked out.
Sorry, but
He has to listen to me all the time. Oh my goodness. So y'all want to hear some history about barbers, huh?
Yes.
Does anybody know anything about histories of barbers? Nobody knows anything about them?
I don't know how to say anything.
It's one of the oldest
They
professions
used to pull teeth.
in the world. It goes back around the year 2000. It's actually mentioned in the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, the 5th chapter, but it doesn't mention the word barber. The word barber didn't come into effect till way down the line. But in Ezekiel, where it talked about barbering, the tool that they used was a sword. And it talked about sharpening the swords for cutting the beards and shaving the heads. Who wants to be operated on with a sword?
No, thank you.
And they were doctors and surgeons, right? Barbers were historically.
There were doctors.
They were doctors,
Barbers.
well, and surgeons.
Yeah.
They'd cut your leg off.
We were called barber surgeons.
Okay.
That's right. We did surgery. That's right. And we did tooth pulling. It was taught us when I went to barber school in 1962 that our first president, George Washington, he got sick. He had pneumonia. And back then, they thought all sickness was in the blood. So they called for the barber surgeon. The barber surgeon. And the barber surgeon came and cut him. And he actually bled. He bled out too much. And it killed him. He might have died of the pneumonia in a way, but the barber surgeon has the credit for it. And there was 2 ways back then that they would they would take blood out of you when you were sick. And one way is they would cut you, and another way, does somebody have any idea what the other way would be?
Leeches, yeah.
That's exactly right, leeches. They put leeches on you. How do you not have leeches put on you and have blood drawn out?
No, thank you.
Don't think so,
No, I don't think so.
Is there any old Sanfordites that's been here since the sixties? Here? Anybody here that's been here since the sixties? So I'm talking to a new generation then on.
Yes.
You have?
I've been in Seminole County since I was 4 and I'm 78, so yes, I've been here a long time.
Were you here in the fifties?
Yes,
In Sanford area?
in Goldenrod and Oviedo.
Did you know the Wainwrights out in Oviedo?
Yeah, I went to high school with Roy Wainwright.
With who?
Roy Wainwright.
Roy Wainwright and I went to Barber College together.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
Roy Wainwright was a good friend of mine. We double dated and stuff. And I went to the Wainwright's house out in Oviedo. She was the first woman postmistress out there, right? Yeah. My goodness, it's good. Is Roy still living? Do you know?
You know, I don't know. Last time, I forgot. No, I don't know for sure.
The last time I heard, he was working in Dillard's,
Mm-hmm.
but he's probably retired from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he may not be with us. I haven't heard that one yet.
Roy and I had a lot of good times together.
He was a mess.
Yeah, he was a mess. And I knew his brother too. He went to college someplace up north up there. And did you know his brother, his older brother? Probably knew of him.
I don't remember his name.
No? Okay. Well, Roy was my good buddy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could have been.
But barbering is one of the oldest professions known. And I had to do some study on this because I graduated from barber school 63 years ago next month. And it's been a long time since I studied all this stuff. But we had to study all about barbering and where it came from and everything. So I had to make some notes. In early Christianity, the barber surgeons worked with the clergy. They went and helped with the sick people with the clergy. That was a good thing. They did bloodletting and surgery, and they became known as barber surgeons. That's when they did that. In 1163, clergy were forbidden to do surgery. That was in 1163 AD. The barber surgeons also did tooth pulling. In the 14th century, things started changing a little bit. They did this up until then, and it started changing a little bit. Okay, I'll get back to that. In 1936, there was still some barber surgeons that were still doing it in simple medicine. As late as 1936. That's amazing that barbers were still doing it. In the late 1800s, the profession dropped in popularity a little bit. The shops where they barbered and did some of the stuff, they started getting dirty and became unsanitary and undignified. But the profession started picking up. That was in the middle 1800s. But the profession started picking up, and it gave a date in the book that I was studying out of. It was December the 5th, 1887, with the formation of the Journeyman Barbers International Union. And that started in Chicago. So we started becoming more, getting back straightened out in our profession. The first barber license law was in Minnesota in 1897. The first barber school was in Chicago. So those are the dates. And I know when I was in school, that was the boring part of history, was dates, capitals, and presidents, and getting them all in order. So we're through with those dates now, okay? Some of the stuff that we learned in 1962 when I went to barber college. We learned how to be a doctor and came out with a barber's license. We had to know so much about the human body. I'm going to tell you some of the things that we had to know about. We had to know about cells. We had to know about digestion. We had to know about the circulatory system. Okay, the circulatory system, you got three things in that. You got arteries, veins, and capillaries. Do you know that every hair on your body, on your arms, on your head, everywhere on your body, there's a little teeny capillary that goes to that hair. That hair needs blood to grow. Okay? When it doesn't get the blood, something happens to it. And my friend Dean Shoemaker here's laughing, okay?
Not getting
Don't
enough
my
blood
head.
in, so your hair falls out.
Well, if people, when they were younger, we had a hand massager. Does anybody remember the hand massagers? You strap it on your hand and it has springs underneath it. If you'd have had a hand massager and massaged your head and kept that scalp loose, have you ever seen anybody that was bald-headed that had wrinkles on top of their head? No, they're all tight like a drum. You can play them, okay?
He just bled out there.
Oh, if you'd have kept that scalp loose, you'd still have hair on top of it. I'm gonna give a testimony, okay? I give Dean his first haircut.
Aww.
His first haircut when he was just a baby. His mother brought him into my barber shop and I cut his hair.
He was on Park.
I was on South Oak Avenue next to the Big Dip, behind Harold and Beverly Transmission.
That's right.
Does anybody remember that barber shop there?
That wasn't the Big Dip though. That was across the street from the Dairy Queen.
The Big Dip was across the street from the Dairy Queen originally, and then it moved over to French Avenue.
Okay.
You cut my brother's hair too when we first got
Yeah, I
his hair.
cut your brother's hair.
Is that the image we have on display right now?
Yeah.
Huh?
Is that the image we have on display right now? In the case of with the first haircut?
No.
No, okay, sorry.
No, that was when I reduced down. When the Beatles came over to this country, barbering was a really good business till the Beatles came over. Around '66, and then all the young people, they wanted to start wearing long hair, so that cut back on our business, and the barbering business declined, and a lot of barbers got out of the business. And I had a 4-chair barber shop that I started out with, and it reduced down to 2, down to 3, down to 2, and then the last barber I had, he said he wanted to be a policeman, so he went ahead and went to work at the police department. And I said, I'm paying too much overhead here, so I moved just north of the parking shop building I rented from Ted Williams, and a little one-chair barber shop, and I had a lot of customers. You reduce down from 2 to 1, and you got to take care of all them customers that 2 used to take care of. And I started a appointment system where you called up and made an appointment, where when you went to a barber shop, you didn't have to sit and wait. And my customers loved it. And like I said, Dean's daddy had a standing appointment every other week. And I had other people that had standing appointments. And I stayed busy from the time I got there until it was closing time at night, all day long, because I could schedule them in there. So I had the first appointment barber shop in town. My dad had the first air-conditioned barber shop in town. My dad was a barber. And we moved back from Pensacola. I was born in Daytona, moved to Sanford. We moved up to Pensacola for 1 year. And we moved back, and he bought a barber shop on First Street. And he bought a used air conditioner from the Sanford Atlantic Bank that used to be downtown, and paid $50 for it in 1954. And my mama got so mad at him. We were living in Pale in a little 2-bedroom house, and there was 4 kids when we left that house. We didn't even have running water in the house. We had a pitcher pump in the backyard. We were poor people. Had a pitcher pump in the backyard, and an outhouse. You know what an outhouse is? We had an outhouse. And we lived out there, and my dad bought that air conditioner and paid $50 for it, and he probably wasn't even making $50 a week, and my mom got so mad. But he had the first air-conditioned barber shop in Sanford on First Street.
So it worked, the air conditioner worked?
It worked good.
And you
Just
got
think
more
about it.
business, right?
Yeah.
Just think about no air conditioning.
Yeah.
I graduated from high school. I
conditioning.
graduated from high school in '62 at Seminole High School, and there's still no air conditioning. But we didn't miss it because we didn't know hardly what it was. You know,
You
it's
didn't
just
know
the
you
way
were
it
hot.
was. And but just think about it: going to a barber shop in July, and you got sweat all over you, and you're getting a haircut, and all that hair getting on you. Wouldn't that be fun? You had paddle fans in there, but it's still, and there's a picture of it in the display out there with the barber shop with the paddle fans in it. But he had the first air conditioned barber shop, so that was quite an attraction to get new customers.
You got lots more appointments, didn't you?
Yeah. But we learned about the circulation, and we learned about the layers of the skin. Does anybody know how many layers of skin we have?
3.
Huh?
3.
3.
I listened in school, Father.
3 layers. You got dermis, epidermis,
Subcutaneous.
and subdermis. Your dermis is the deepest one, then you got the subdermis, and your epidermis, that's up here. So we had to learn all about the skin. I'm telling you, we learned how to be doctors and came out with a barber's license. And we learned about the bones of the head. We had to know all them when we took our barbers. To get our barber license, we had to name all the bones in our head. We had to know all the bones in our body. We didn't have to name them, but we had to know how many there was. And as I remember, there's like 200 different bones in our body. It's a lot of bones. We had to know about the nervous system, the blood supply to the face, the scalp shedding and regrowth of hair. Let me say this about bald heads, okay? While we're on this, okay? As I remember, and I barbered for 25 years, none of my regular customers ever went bald-headed.
No.
Dean wasn't a regular customer. Too bad, Dean, I'm sorry.
Okay.
He'll never speak to me again for picking on him tonight.
Embarrassing me in front of these people.
I'm gonna tell you another one that went bald-headed, okay? But there was a reason for that, he never paid me. He's my son. He lives in Winter Haven, or he'd be here tonight. But he went bald-headed, but he never paid me. He should have paid me, and he might have still had some hair. But I know of none of my customers that ever lost their hair, and I don't know why. It was just a blessing.
You didn't massage their scalp?
Didn't do what?
Did you massage their scalp?
I didn't massage everybody's scalp, but I guess about the time that when I first started barbering to get a scalp massage, that was an extra charge, and you get what they called a tonic, where you put some kind of hair tonic on their head. You'd massage it first, and then you put a good tonic on it, and maybe get 50 cents extra or something like that. And when I started barbering, a haircut was $1.25. That was the first part of 1963, and a flat top was $1.50. And they've come a long ways. When I quit barbering in '87, they were $5. And now they're around 20 or so. So.
Could I make a statement about men and long hair?
Okay.
You were talking about the Beatles came over and all the young men had to have long hair, so they quit going to the barber. My grandson is in high school, well, he's a freshman at Florida State now. His generation all have long hair.
Yeah.
And I've been watching the American Revolution on PBS. If you've not seen this, it's quite a history lesson. All those men had long hair in the 1700s. So it comes and goes, styles, you know.
But if you
Beards
think
come
about,
and go.
you think about the American Revolution, they didn't have clippers back then.
Had swords.
Well, they had scissors by then, but they didn't they didn't have clippers.
Or they'd use their sword, you know.
Yeah.
To trim your
Yeah.
hair.
Oh,
Interesting,
my. But something else about massaging, people would come in about the massager. People would come in and they'd be sitting in their barber chair and, oh, I got a terrible headache today. And you could take that massager and massage your head and their neck, and that headache would leave them. Massaging your head and your neck with a good massager, it relieves tension and that kind of stuff, and it really helped. We had to learn about pharmacology, about some kind of medical stuff, skin and scalp ailments, hygiene. Hygiene was very important. Sanitation, that was very, very important when I started barbering. When you come in to get a haircut, it was the law that we had to wash our hands between every customer. And we had sinks between the chairs. And there was a little neck strip that we would put around your little paper neck strip that we would pull around there. And then we put the hair cloth, and that neck strip was to keep that hair cloth from touching your neck from the customer before. And hygiene was and sanitation was very, very important back then. We had to have a blood test every year and a chest x-ray. You ask why?
Pneumonia.
TB. Yep. Yeah, it was very prevalent back then. Actually, there was a barber that used to work for my dad that got TB, and they detected it when he had a blood test and an x-ray, and he had to spend a year in a TB sanitarium. Yep.
Now we have vaccines. Thank you very much.
Bacteriology, and I don't even know what some of these words mean, but we had to know it back then because we were tested on it when we took our barber test. And scalp treatments we had to know about dandruff, you know, and what was good for dandruff. And there was people that had dry hair, and most of the people that had dry hair was the ones that had dandruff. That's about what it is. It's flaking of the skin, and it's dry. And we used to have a hair tonic back then that was called Hask. And it was the best that I ever saw, and people loved it. And his slogan it was HASK, and it came in a bottle, and their slogan was Ask for Hask. And somebody came in and they had dandruff on there. You could put some of that stuff on there and rub it in, and it would just dissolve it. And we sold a lot of that Hask. People used to buy a lot of that Hask from us. That was a good seller. And we had to learn about tinning hair. And when I was in barber college, I'll share this. When I was in barber college, they needed a guinea pig. And there was 24 of us in there. And who do you think the guinea pig was? I had blonde hair, and I always liked black hair.
Oh, no.
So they did my hair. They bleached out all the normal colored hair with peroxide, I think it was. They took all the color out of my hair and did my hair, and it was jet black. And I did not look good in black hair. It was terrible. My skin color was not the right color for black hair, and I hated it. It was terrible. I had a pompadour like this here, and as soon as I could, I had them cut all my hair off and give me a flat top. I went from a pompadour like this that you come over to a flat top to get that black hair off of my head. I just couldn't stand it after I wanted it. And it finally grew out. And then we had to learn shop management. And shop management was, it was kind of, we had to know that because in the barber shop back then it was all cash, and each one of the barbers had a little booklet, and it had a place where you tear it off, and you would mark down, I got $1.25 for this haircut, and you'd mark that on your book, and you put $1, and it had like number 1, number 2 chair was number 2, number 3 chair was 3, and etc. And they would mark that. So he knew that he got $1.25, and he would mark $1.25 on that bottom part and tear it off and go over to the register and put the $1.25 in there with that. And every night I had to take the money home, and I had to go through it to make sure all the money came out even. And then at the end of the week, I was a shop owner, and at the end of the week, I had to figure up their weekly pay, and I had to take out Social Security and income tax out of their pay, and the shop owner had to match the Social Security. They got 75% of what they took in, and the shop owner got 25%, which covered the lights and the rent, and, you know, the Social Security and the overhead for the barber shop. Okay. The hand clippers. All of y'all familiar with the hand clippers? There's some on display out there. I had a couple pair of them, and they got them out there. They were invented in 1855.
Oh.
So, but you know, I've thought about those hand clippers, and they probably had to really be good to use those hand clippers, because if you had them in the hair and you only went part way and came out, it's going to pull it. The hair's going to be stuck in it. So you'd really have to know what you were doing to cut hair with those hand clippers, because you had to keep that blade moving back and forth, you know, to make it where it wasn't pulling hair. And then the electric clippers came out in 1919. So that was a lot easier, the electric clippers, because that blade just kept moving back and forth, and you'd zip up through that hair and it would cut it off. And the barber pole, have anybody ever thought about the barber pole, what it stands for? Does anybody know what it stands for?
Excuse me, blood and bandages?
The red, it's not patriotic, it's red, white, and blue, but it's not a patriotic, okay? The red stands for the blood, the blue stands for the arteries and veins, the white stands for the galls, and the little basin down underneath it stood for what the blood went into. It held the blood. And it was a law that we had to know that for our barber's test. You had to know that. That was something that you had to know. And the law required the barber shops to have one of those on display on the outside. It was a law back then. I don't know if it's still a law or not. They were actually, barber poles have been around from around 400 to approximately 1400. They came into existence somewhere around 400 AD to around 1400 AD. The combs, way back when, there was no combs, and they are prehistoric. And the first combs, they probably came out around 2000, the year 2000. That was BC, before Christ. And does anybody have any idea what they might have been made out of?
Bone.
Huh?
Bone.
Bones?
Wood.
You're right. Bones and the tusks. Yep. Combs were made out of that. Scissors first came out about 1500 BC in Egypt. They had scissors. So that was a lot easier cutting hair with a comb and scissors than it would have been with a sword.
A lot safer too.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I've thought about safety. I was 18 years old when I became a barber. And first thing we did when we went to barber school is we learned how to hone a straight razor. Do you all know what a straight razor is? They're pretty sharp, okay? And we had to learn how to hone them on a hone. We had to learn how to hone it. That was the first thing we did in barber school, learn how to hone and strop that razor. Okay, I was 18 years old when I got my license and went to work in a barber shop. And shaving back then was pretty popular. And we shaved around everybody's ears after we cut their hair and shaved the outline. How would you feel today getting into a barber and going into a barber shop and asking for a shave, and they get an old razor out, an 18-year-old barber in there sharpening his razor, and you asking him to shave you today? I'm not sure I would go for that today. But it was very popular back then. There wasn't about the only safety razors we had back then was safety razors that women used to shave their legs. And
My
some,
dad said that old-fashioned kind of shave was the best shave you'd ever had.
it is a good shave. I learned to shave with a straight razor, because I was in the barber shop and I'd put lather
That's
on my
what he
face
did,
when I had a break, you know, and
Get his
shaved.
hair
I
cut
had
and
a
get
light
shave,
beard,
right?
and I shaved with a straight razor. And when I went in the army, they wouldn't allow me to take my straight razor. I had to start shaving with a safety razor, and I didn't even know how to shave with a safety razor. But they wouldn't let me have my straight razor.
What was it, shave and a haircut 6 bits?
That's way back. That's before my time. I heard it was shaving a haircut 2 bits.
Well, maybe it was 2
For a
bits, I don't
quarter.
know.
2 bits.
It was before my time.
Yeah, yep, that's way back. But you know how many Coca-Colas a quarter would buy back then?
Because they were like a nickel, right?
Yep. Okay, there was some advantages, I would say, good advantages to being a barber. And one of them was the people that you met in your barber shop. They became very good friends, you know, because they keep coming back and you get to know what their professions were, and you get to know about their family, and got to know some great people as a barber. Mr. Shoemaker was one of them, and I just lost a good friend, Alan Dickey, that was a judge in Seminole County. Did any of y'all know Alan Dickey? Well, I used to cut his hair, and he was still attorney then, and that was before he became a judge. And I'll never forget it. I was cutting, but I met a lot of great people, okay? A lot of great people. But I was cutting Alan Dickey's hair one day, and there was a convenience store at the corner of 25th Street and Mellonville Avenue. And something happened over there, and a policeman walked in and caught the burglar robbing it, and caught him while he was doing it. And it was on the news, and I was cutting Alan Dickey's hair, and here I am cutting his hair, and it was just him and I in the barber shop, and we were talking about it, and I walked around in the front of Alan, and I looked at him, and I said, Alan, I said, I want to know how an attorney can defend somebody when they're found in the act of committing the crime. How can you defend them? Do you know what his answer was? Does anybody know what a good answer for that is?
The Constitution?
Very well.
He looked at me. Alan Dickey, I think, was born with a smile on his face. I never saw him without a smile. He was from Kansas, and Kansas people are just some of the friendliest. He always had a smile. And he looked at me and he says, the law says you're innocent until proven guilty. And I never forgot that. That was my Alan Dickey story. And he was a friend, and I hated to lose him. And there was good people in the barber shop, and you get to know the people, and you get to know what they are, and anything in your life as a barber that you needed to know something about, you had a barbershop customer that could, if your car broke down, I could tell this mechanic, I says, my car's doing this, you know, well, it's that, you know. And you would learn who the best mechanics were, you knew who the best carpenters were, the best painters were. You got to know the bank people in the bank. Joe Russi, that used to work at the Sanford Atlantic Bank, I'll tell you this story, it's a funny story too. I used to cut his hair, and it was back in the good old days. when we were a person and not a number. And I was running a paper route at the time and barbering at the same time. And I had a big bill to pay every week to the Orlando Sentinel. And Joe Russey was a customer of mine and a friend. And he called me up one afternoon. He said, Butch, he said, you got an overdrawn check down here. I said, Joe, you must be kidding. And he said, no. He said, no. He said, there won't be any charge on this if you can get a deposit down here. So I called up my wife and she took a deposit down there. When I got home, I checked my checkbook thing and I had entered a deposit twice. And I thought I had plenty of money to cover the checks. But it's not what you know a lot of times that gets you through this life. It's who you know, friends, that can help you. It really is. It's not what we know that's going to get us in heaven, it's who we know too. You can learn just about anything. I remember back in the day, before we had TV in the barber shop, and we'd look forward to Saturday afternoon. Baseball was the national sport back then. How many of you remember Dizzy Dean?
Yep.
We couldn't wait for Dizzy Dean to come on and announce a ball game. Yep, it was good. And our barber shops back then, we had inspections. We had a state inspector that came around every once in a while. I'll never forget his name. His name was Patterson. And when he would hit town, there was half a dozen barber shops in the town back in the 60s. And as soon as he'd come to town, and he'd go to the first barber shop and to inspect it, after he left, that barber shop would start contacting the other barber shops in town and say, Patterson's in town. If you were cutting hair and you had hair around the bottom of your chair, it was okay. But after you got through cutting hair, you were supposed to sweep up your hair. And if you didn't, and he walked in and you were sitting in your chair waiting for a customer to come in, and there was hair around the bottom of your chair, he would write you up for that. And I had one barber that got written up one time. And he probably had some barber equipment sitting on his back bar that wasn't in the sterilizer like it was supposed to be being sterilized, and he probably got written up for that too. And they kind of got into a conference to a little spat, but it worked out. He was a good guy. And then when I first started barbering, they used linen in the barber shop. A little towel about so big, and it was a smooth towel, and they would put that towel underneath your collar here, and then put that hair cloth on top of that towel. And then when you got a shampoo or got a facial or a shave, they had what they call a Turkish towel, which it's thicker and it has the rough edges on it and all that. And the barber shops rented all those towels, and we paid so much a piece for those towels, and they would come by once or twice a week, and we needed 50 new towels or ever how many towels it was, and they would leave them, and now they use paper towels. One funny thing that happened as I was barbering is I had a guy, and his name was, I called him Mr. Pete because he was older than I was, and it was when I had the appointment system, and he came in to get his hair cut, and I started cutting his hair, and there was several other customers in there, and they were talking, and I just started cutting on his hair, and he said, it's my turn to get a haircut, and he said, I like it quiet when I'm getting my haircut. Well, I didn't say anything. I was working on this side here, and all I did is just had a little bit over here, so I went over on the other side, and I matched it with the sides, and I took his hair cloth off, and I said, Mr. Pete, I said, I think you might enjoy going to another barber shop better than you do here, because people in the barber shop like to talk. They did. They talked to each other, and they liked to talk to the barber, you know, and he was very rude what he did. So I let him go. I was very nice to him, and I let him go. And about 2 months down the line, he called me up and he said, Butch, he says, I'm sorry for what I did. He said, will you take me back? And I did, and everything was okay after that. But we had some times. I remember his hair I was cutting when the space shuttle blew up over there. It was in January. And I was cutting an attorney's hair, Mr. Spears, that lived on Park Avenue. Do you remember Spears that lived on Park Avenue?
Algie Spears.
I was cutting his hair, and we had the TV on, and we saw it happen on the TV. And we both quit, and we went outside and looked out there, and we could see it up in the air, looking over that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a
One rocket went
Yeah.
that way, one went that way.
that was a sad day. Okay, does anybody have any questions? You want to know how? Go ahead.
Have you seen the play or the movie called Sweeney Todd? It's about a barber.
No, I didn't see that.
Probably
He was-
shouldn't go
was a
into the
serial
gruesome
killer.
details, but.
Mm.
Anybody else seen
Straight
Sweeney
edge.
Todd?
Yeah.
Took place in England, and the play was in England, and it was about this barber who, you know, would cut people up and
Bake a pie.
and
That's a true
and
story.
make meat pies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They take
His
you
girlfriend
right?
made me
That's a great one.
Yeah, but if you watch Dateline,
Yeah.
how about the doctors that kill their wives?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and then there was one not too long ago where the wife killed the doctor, her husband,
Yeah.
you know, so it is all over.
I have a two-part question for you. So how many haircuts would you give in a day, would you guess?
Oh, I would go somewhere between 20 minutes and 30 minutes on a haircut according to who it was. Some of them were easier than others.
And so
So-
8 hours a day or longer?
16 to 20 heads a
Okay.
day on a
Okay.
good day.
And then my second part is, have you ever kept track of how many customers you had in your career?
How many customers I have?
Yeah.
I haven't multiplied that out.
Okay. I was just curious if you
I
kept
remember though,
Yeah.
that that barbering back in the days, Saturday was a big day. This was before appointment time. This is when I first started. And I remember there was some days you would sit down and maybe have 3 customers all day long. That was a very slow day. And then on Saturdays, everybody came into town and they brought their children in town, and you were so busy you didn't even have time to eat lunch. So we had slow times and we had busy times. And the appointment system really worked out good.
Didn't you used to have a little side business going in that barber shop?
I did.
Go ahead, tell us about that.
Okay. Several side businesses.
No.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Oh no.
State needs to be reported.
okay, I was delivering the Orlando Sentinel, and they used to have coupons. And the stores, they had good coupons, like 75 cents off on a pound of Maxwell House coffee or Folgers or cereal or dog food, all kind of coupons. I mean, they were loaded with, the papers was loaded with coupons. And the stores started doubling coupons. Well, I had access to getting extra coupons. So I would get extra coupons and cut them out, and I'd go to the grocery store and I'd buy half a dozen cans of coffee, I'd buy dog food, I'd buy, you name it, I bought it, whatever I could get a good deal on. I went to the store one time and bought $230 some worth of groceries for $30.
Wow.
And then I could bring it to my barber shop and put a little profit on it, and my customers could save money, and I could make a little bit of money. We did what we had to do to make it.
I think he was one of the original couponers.
Yeah, there's that show, Extreme
He's
Couponing.
done-
Prior to that.
Yeah.
Yes, prior to that. I mean, he did spills at church on.
I give a
couponing.
seminar
Seminars. Way back in the day, way
Church
before it was cool.
on how to buy the newspaper and cut the coupons out and save money.
Yeah.
And Kay Shoemaker, he didn't need to save money, but he was so intrigued about it. He was so intrigued about it.
It's a game.
He was asking me all about it, and I said, "What are you doing Sunday?" "I ain't doing nothing." I said, "Let's go shopping." So I took him shopping, and he bought some stuff with those coupons. And he couldn't believe how much money he saved. And he came home and he told his wife, he says, "I want you to start using coupons." And she said, "I'm not going to use coupons." I had another guy that lived on the golf course. His name was Glenn Pennywit. Has anybody ever heard of Glenn Pennywit? He was a retired colonel out of the Air Force, millionaire. He was a millionaire. He married Harold Sherwood's wife after Harold Sherwood died, and Harold Sherwood had Harcar Aluminum. Does anybody remember Harcar Aluminum out on Sanford Avenue on 1792? Well, he married her and he lived out on the golf course, and he was a golfer. And he used to go around the golf course at night and pick up loose balls that people would lose out there. And they would actually hit them up in his yard. His yard was right there on the golf course. And they would hit them up in his yard. And he would wash those golf balls off, rinse them off. And then when his wife was doing white clothes in the washing machine with a little bleach in there, he'd put those golf balls in there and wash them. And they come out and look like brand new Pinnacles and the different brands of golf balls. And he would put them in egg cartons, a dozen Pinnacles or whatever, and he brought in 5-gallon buckets of them, and I sold them for like a quarter a piece or 35 cents a piece, and I'd make a nickel a piece on the golf ball, and he'd make the rest. And my customers loved it because a Pinnacle ball back then was right at $1, and they were getting them good use ones for a quarter, So my customers loved it, and so did he. Made money, I made money, and my customers saved money.
Did you pay sales tax on them?
Who was your judge friend again?
I got saved. I prayed about cheating on income tax. Okay? Lord, forgive me, okay? But the reason I went into barber, and she asked me why I went into it. My dad was a barber. He got his license in 1948. And my first job, you saw that lawnmower out there? I worked for John Lomersey that had the Dutch Mill Nursery. You probably remember John out on Upsaler Road? I worked for John Lomersey the summer of 1960, and I made teenage wages. 50 cents an hour doing yard care. And he lived in Sanford, and Mr. Lomersey was as poor as a church mouse. And we used to do business people's yards because regular people couldn't afford to pay somebody to do the yard. So we did attorneys and doctors and people that owned businesses that could afford it. I made 50 cents an hour. The next year, I worked for Merriweather Farms. I was good friends with Walt Merriweather Jr., and they had farms out on East Celery Avenue out there. And I got a big raise. It went up to 75 cents an hour, and that was minimum wage for adults back then. the easiest job I ever had. I just sit on a tractor and steered it. And the people were back there cutting the cabbages and throw it on the trailer, and when my trailer would fill up, I'd go over there where they took them off the trailer, and little Walt would get in behind me, and by the time his was filled up, I was behind him. And then my senior year in high school, I worked at a little convenience store called Wilma's Grocery on the corner of Mellonville Avenue and 13th Street, Wilma's Grocery. In the afternoon, I made 75 cents an hour, but I saved my money, and when I started my senior year in high school, I had enough money to save up. I bought my first car and paid cash for it, $150 for a 1951 Chevrolet at Holler Chevrolet in Sanford. And I paid my own insurance. I had money to buy some of my clothes that I liked, and had money to go out on dates with from working.
And gasoline was how much a gallon?
Somewhere
25
between 19 and 23 cents a gallon. Yeah, everything was different. A Coke was a nickel. I remember when they went up to a dime. But when I was working at Wilma's Grocery and I was getting ready to graduate from high school, my dad had a talk with me, and I had a great dad. And he had a talk with me, and he says, "Son, you can do okay working in a grocery store." But he says, "I think you can do a little bit better in the barbering business if you'd be interested in going into it." And I says, "Okay, well, I'll try it." So he had enough money he could pay. He was raising 5 children. I was the oldest of 5. And he paid for my college education at Orlando Barber College. It was 6 months, going 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, a total of 1,200 hours. And I got my license, and I was doing good. I worked with him downtown. He had 2 barber shops, one downtown in the Valdez Hotel. You remember where the Valdez Hotel used to be, on Commercial and Park Avenue? It's a parking lot now. But I worked with him there for less than a month, and he was keeping an eye on me to see how I was doing. And one day he says, "Butch," he says, "I see that you're doing real well. You're doing real good." He said, "Would you be interested in getting the other shop that he had?" Back then, I think it was the only neighborhood shop in Sanford. It was out on 2510 Oak Avenue, and it was a 4-chair barber shop. And he said, "I've got $3,000 in it." And he says, "I'll let you have it for what I've got in it. I'll take you to the bank, and you can borrow the money, and you can pay it back to the bank and build up your credit with the bank." So I said, "That's good." And I did, and I barbered for 25 years, and it was very good to me. But you can make a living in barbering, but if you want to do better, you got to do more than just work a 40-hour week.
Did you ever do women's hair?
There was a woman there was a little washateria right down the street from my barber shop, and I used to do her hair. She had tapered out hair similar to what you got, and I did her hair, and she loved it. But for long hair women, I didn't do their hair. I wasn't trained to do that.
Do you still have any of those ledger books?
Huh?
Do you still have any of those ledger books where you would put in the prices and bookkeeping, basically? Do you still have any of those?
I didn't even have the book that I studied out of when I went to barber college. I didn't even have it. Probably after I got out, I said, "I don't need this book," but my dad had his when he graduated out, and my mother kept it, and when she passed away, I got all his stuff. So, and my dad, one thing that he told me, and it's biblical, and I'll never forget it. He was a good dad, and he told me, he says, "Butch," he says, "if you'll give that customer of yours the kind of haircut that you would want him to give you if he was cutting your hair. He said, if you'll give him as good a haircut as you want him to give you, he says you'll do well. And I always give, I'm a perfectionist, and I always give it. I'll tell you something. When I was going to barber school, we had a family friend, and he was my parents' age. He was a truck driver in town, Mr. Moose, and he drove all the way over to Orlando, where I-4 goes across 441. That's where the barber college was. He drove all the way over there for me to cut his hair, and I cut his hair and gave him a really good haircut. And you had to call for an inspection when you got through, and the barber inspectors in there, they would come and, the instructors, they would come and say, yes, okay, and everything was good, and I was letting him out, and I looked, and he had one hair growing out the edge of his ear there, and I said, hold on just a minute, Mr. Moose, let me get that hair, and I stuck my scissors in there, and I clamped down on it, and I cut his ear. I was playing barber surgeon. I cut his ear, and it bled like a stuck hog. I mean, it bled.
So many capillaries in your head, it's like.
Oh, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
The funny things, you never forget them. Y'all didn't either, whatever y'all did.
True. Did you ever barter for haircuts?
I was going to ask the same question.
The only reason why I'm asking this is one time my husband went downtown Sanford to get a haircut, and he came back with zucchini.
These people came in and they paid with zucchini to get their haircut, and I just thought it was the funniest thing ever.
And I was just amused that he came back with zucchini from getting his haircut. And somebody bartered to get their haircut.
You could have got golf balls.
I know.
I don't ever remember doing that, really.
One thing that when we did the oral history together, that first of all, I want to say thank you so much for giving your time and your energy to help make this exhibit. Really, if we didn't have your collection, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So I want to give you a thank you. But one of the things that stuck out to me was the traveling case that you had. Do you want to go and explain a little bit about that traveling case? Because for me, that really represented community.
The little blue one?
Yeah, the little blue one.
Okay. We had customers, and one of my dad's philosophies, people would get sick and they couldn't come to the barber shop to get a haircut, or they would be in the hospital. And maybe they needed to be shaved or a haircut. And I had a little barbering thing that I'd put my tools in and go give it to them. But my dad taught me, he says, those customers, when they're able, they come to you and they get their haircut and they pay you. When they're not able, you go to them and take care of them. And there was never a charge for when we did that. We took care of our customers when they were not able to come to us. And another thing, talking about no charge, there was never a charge for a first-time child's haircut. And let me tell you something else about a child's haircut. When I first started barbering, people would drive up into the barber shop and they were bringing their child for their first haircut. And that child, when they pulled up in front of the barber shop, the child would go crazy. Start crying, I don't want this, and start yelling and crying and everything. Well, I started telling my customers, there's two things about getting a haircut that children understand. And I said, don't ever mention it. I said, they know what a cut is. And the customers would tell their children that the barber is not going to hurt you. They know what hurt means, and they know what cut means. So when you're planning on bringing them to the barber shop to get their first haircut, don't say anything about haircut or hurt, that the barber's gonna hurt you. And it changed completely. The children would come in, they didn't know anything that was gonna go on, and they would sit there and get their haircut, no charge.
So they taught you psychology in barber school.
I did.
Where were you 24 years ago when my son got a haircut? He screamed bloody murder from.
His aunt had to cut it, and he literally, you were trying to hold him down. He is crying, snot running down his nose, all the hair getting caught in it, and it was just the most pathetic thing ever. But he got over it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
You don't know how many nights that I laid there in bed and thought about giving this. I said, can I do it? I'm 81 years old.
I felt like that was the condition of the loan. In order to have this on loan, you would have to have this lecture to talk to people about it. But I really appreciate it.
Very
kind of giving
fascinating.
an insight
Thank you for
of what
having
was
me, okay?
going on with barbering. And everyone, please look. The kind of really entire kind of this side is mostly Butch Walker's collection. It also has his father's collection as well. So please check that out. Also check out some of the other barbers and salonists that were working here in Sanford as well. If it's a little too late, we're a free museum, so come on back.
And grab some
Hurry up,
snacks
you might
before
be
you
able to
go.
watch
Grab a
Wheel of
cookie.
Fortune. You won't be able to see Jeopardy, you might see the end of it.